Smart people don't trust you because you're nice. They trust you because you passed tests you didn't even know you were taking. Right now, someone is watching how you react when they deliberately say something slightly wrong. They're measuring the microsecond delay before you respond. They're cataloging whether you correct them, ignore it, or store it for later. You think you're having a casual conversation? They're running a background algorithm on your character. What if I told you that every highly intelligent person has developed their own secret system for detecting who's safe to be real with? And you've been failing these tests your entire life without knowing they existed. The invisible audition, here's what they don't tell you. Smart people live in constant audition mode. Not because they're performing, but because everyone around them is. They've learned that most people can't handle unfiltered intelligence. So they've developed detection systems more sophisticated than airport security. They drop intellectual breadcrumbs and watch who follows the trail. They share half-formed ideas and observe who tries to complete them versus who tries to compete with them. They mention a book they're reading and note whether you Google it later or pretend you've already read it. The weirdest part, they're not testing your intelligence. They're testing your emotional security around theirs. Can you be genuinely curious without feeling threatened? Can you admit ignorance without feeling diminished? Can you appreciate their insight without making it about your own validation? Most people fail before the test even begins. They hear smart and immediately start performing their own intelligence back. They name drop concepts, reference credentials, or worse, they start competing. Smart people detect this performance anxiety like a smoke alarm detects fire. Game over. The emotional security scan, you want to know the real test. It's not about matching their intellect. It's about whether you can sit comfortably in the space between what you know and what they know without trying to close that gap with fake expertise. Watch what happens when someone highly intelligent shares a complex thought. Most people either nod along pretending to understand or immediately try to one-up with their own smart observation. Neither response passes the test. The first shows intellectual dishonesty. The second shows emotional insecurity. The people who pass, they ask genuine questions. They say, I don't follow that logic. Can you walk me through it? They admit confusion without shame. They engage with curiosity instead of ego. They treat the conversation like exploration, not competition. Here's the twist that'll mess with your head. Smart people aren't looking for other smart people. They're looking for emotionally secure people who won't punish them for being smart. The pattern recognition trap. Highly intelligent people are pattern recognition machines. They notice things you don't notice about yourself. They see that you always interrupt when you feel confused. They observe that you change the subject when you're out of your depth. They catalog that you use humor to deflect when you feel intellectually threatened. You're not hiding these patterns as well as you think. To them, your behavioral code is written in 72-point font. They watch you navigate cognitive dissonance like a scientist studying lab rats, not because they're cruel, but because they need to know. Are you safe to be unguarded around? The most devastating realization, they're not judging your intelligence. They're judging your reaction to theirs. Do you feel diminished by their capabilities? Do you make them responsible for your insecurity? Do you expect them to dim their light so you can feel brighter? The people who pass this test understand something crucial. Someone else's intelligence doesn't subtract from your worth. It's not a zero-sum game. Your brightness doesn't dim your value. The vulnerability paradox. Here's where it gets psychologically twisted. Smart people desperately want to be known, but they've learned that showing their full intellectual capacity often destroys relationships, so they've developed elaborate systems to test if you can handle their unfiltered thoughts. They start small. They share a slightly complex idea and watch your reaction. Do you engage or retreat? Do you ask questions or change subjects? Do you seem energized or intimidated? They're not trying to impress you. They're trying to gauge if you can handle the real version of them. Most people fail this test because they make it about themselves. They feel stupid, inadequate, or left out. They respond with defensiveness disguised as disinterest. That's too complicated for me. Or I don't have time for theoretical stuff, or the classic, you think too much. Each of these responses sends the same signal. You will punish me for being myself. The authenticity filter the people who pass. They do something radical. They stay curious without feeling threatened. They ask follow-up questions not to prove their intelligence, but because they're genuinely interested in understanding. They admit when something goes over their head without making it a personal failure. But here's the secret weapon that fast-tracks trust. They notice the human behind the insight. They see that beneath the complex reasoning is someone who desperately wants to be understood. They respond to the person, not just the idea. It's fascinating. What made you think about it that way? Beats, yeah, I agree every time. Because the first response sees the thinker. The second response just processes the thought. Smart people have spent their lives having their ideas appreciated, but their minds ignored. They've become human search engines, useful for answers, but never truly seen for their process. The people who pass their trust tests understand this distinction. The emotional intelligence detector hears what'll blow your mind. Smartest people aren't testing your IQ. They're testing your EQ. Can you handle emotional complexity the way they handle intellectual complexity? Can you sit with ambiguity, uncertainty, and multiple perspectives without needing immediate resolution? They drop emotional depth charges and watch how you respond. They share something vulnerable wrapped in intellectualism and observe whether you connect with the feeling or just the facts. They reveal their uncertainty about something and note whether you rush to provide false comfort or can tolerate their not knowing. The test isn't whether you can match their analytical capabilities. It's whether you can match their emotional sophistication. Can you hold space for their intensity without trying to fix it? Can you appreciate their complexity without trying to simplify it? The final algorithm. The people who earn trust from highly intelligent individuals understand this. Being smart often means being emotionally isolated. Not because smart people are antisocial, but because most people can't handle the full spectrum of their internal experience. They're not looking for someone to compete with their intellect. They're looking for someone who can witness their mind without feeling diminished by it. Someone who can appreciate their insights without making it about their own validation. Someone who can see the person behind the processing power. So next time you're talking to someone obviously more intelligent than you, remember, they're not testing whether you're smart enough. They're testing whether you're secure enough. The question isn't whether you can match their IQ. The question is whether you can handle their authenticity without making it about your inadequacy. And that test? It's happening right now in ways you'll never see coming. Can you pass it?